This bike has serious leakage problems. You can see all up in here that these pushrod tube seals have failed. It is leaking all through here. Get that in there. So we're going to change those out. Those won't budge, so we're going to have to cut them off. You got one nut here, two on either side of the belt coat of the cylinder cover. Since the exhaust nut was seized on there, you do not want to force it. You will do more damage than you will want to do. Had to cut it off. Used a cut-off tool, made two cuts here, and then taking a hammer and hitting it here, it breaks it forward and comes right off. Didn't affect any of the threads, cut just shy of it. And that works, so now we can get this off and we'll replace it when we put the exhaust back on. You're going to want to use a copper-based anti-seize on those threads so that this doesn't happen again. Alright, back working on this 75 R96, replacing the pushrod tube seals that are underneath here. We've taken the exhaust off. We've had to cut that off because it was seized on there. So we did that with a cutoff tool. We've got the flywheel up at OT, top dead center, by spinning the back wheel when it's in 5th gear, bumping it along until we've got an OT right there in the view hole. And ordinarily these valves would, God, these things are tight. Can barely get, I wonder this thing wasn't running right. Even checked the other side to make sure I wasn't flipped the other way. That's even, so we're going to take this apart. So we've got a 14 millimeter. Do we have 14? Wrong one. If I yawn, excuse the yawn. It's 12:30 at night and I couldn't sleep. So here I am. Get out of there. Come on. There we go. You want to make sure you're keeping the orientation of everything the same. So get yourself a piece of paper or something and write down your exhaust and your intake. That's being a booger. Alright, so take the rocker off. And pull push rods out, keeping the orientation the same. You can even mark this rocker end. I can't. Now the head can come off. Oh, that doesn't look good. Let's get some additional drippage here. Jesus. Not looking good. Now when we pull this off, I'm going to have to turn the pushrod tube seals in order to get them to clear the engine. But before we pull this all the way out, handy piece of cardboard to hold it in place. Get that a little smaller. There we go. Nice little cradle for the cylinder. Man, it's a good deal of carbon on this cylinder for only 33,000 miles on this bike. Jesus. So we'll get that cleaned up. To get the ring clip off, there is, I don't know if you can see this. Let me zoom in here. Hold on. Sorry about that. All right. Right here, there's a little indent. And if you take some small pliers, run one of them along there, you can grab the little wire clip in there and pull it out. The same thing for installing it. If you start with the open end on this side, seat that, grab this side, you can push that in and use that guide to push all the way through. I'm going to remove this side because it's easier not screwing with this to get it out. Let's see if we can do this one-handed. No, we can't. Stay tuned. Once the clip is out, sometimes it's hard to get the pin out, and you can heat it up using, I use a heat gun. Another thing is you can get a socket that is smaller than the clip. Put that in there, and using a pair of wood clamps, it will push that through to the other side, get that started, and you can continue on that way. But you don't want to sit there and pound it or anything because you don't want to bend the connecting rod. Or the, don't pound it. I'm too tired this morning. What am I doing? Where is my... Fuck. There we go. And it pushes right out. Ta-da! And just to keep the orientation right, I always just, you know, if you can fit it in your parts washer that way, keep it in there. You know you're going back and forth in the same way, and that way we can get this cleaned off, realign the rings, check the rings, make sure everything's cool with them. Get this back together. So after 4 days of soaking and scrubbing, we've gotten them clean. Boy, this was like a bad barbecue, but it's as clean as that's gonna get for now. So now we can put this sucker back together. Thank God. And then it's on to the other side, which scares me what that's going to reveal. So we're going to, and this of course is all cleaned up too, to put the piston back in. What we're going to do is we're going to use a ring compressor for a piston. These are really cheap. You can get these for like $10 at the hardware store, at the auto body store. And that's going to go around here, and we're going to flip it the right way. We're going to crank that down real slowly, so that all the rings align, and it's going to compress those rings in. And when it gets those nice and compressed, we can slide this in to the cylinder and release this and bring this out, and it stays in place. Alright, putting this back together, we've got our new seals on here. We put a little alcohol on them to make them slip on easier. Rings towards the engine, and we're going to kind of cock them to the side a little so they fit over the frame. We will have our gasket. Get it the right way. This doesn't have an O-ring or anything. This is 75. I think the newer ones did. But so now we're going to work with the piston. There's little gaps in between the rings, and you want to turn them all so that they're 120 degrees to each other, or just a third, a third, a third. Alright, now we're going to take our tool, our piston ring compressor. Again, these are about $10. Oops. Not something you want to do fast. You want to make sure your rings are staying. Shit, they moved. Yep. Not something you want to rush, so that your rings stay where they are supposed to stay. Okay. You see everything is compressing nicely, dropping the wrench. Before it's too tight. Okay, that's all the way down. Oh, that's good. Okay. Remember, there's going to be an arrow, and after it says Vorn, or something like that, German, that goes towards the exhaust. So we're going to put that on. If you do it on a piece of cardboard that gives you a little give, you can get the very tip of the piston kind of pushing through there so that it seats on there. And now we're going to use, nope, this way. Come on, baby, almost. Like a glue. All right. Piston is back in. Now, shit out of the way. I will relocate things and we'll get this guy back on there. Alright, now's the fun part. Getting this back together. So we've got our new gasket on there. Yep, right, the right way. So we're going to push the cylinder out until we see the hole. Don't go nuts doing this. Easier to have two people. You don't want to push it all the way through and start back over because your rings have popped out. Okay. So now get this back together. And we get our pin. The ring was left in on that side, so we're going to slide it in from this, and the little spring clip I do replace. There we go. You like the back of my head? Better than the front. There we go. Come on. Little jiggling. And we're in. Okay. Beauty. Alright, so now we gotta get that new spring. New spring. How easy is this gonna go on? These little things can jump out of your hands. Your piece of cardboard. Use it to block the engine so that you're not bouncing a piece into the engine, which would suck. Go get a cup of coffee if you want. These things suck. All right. So now we're just gonna push this on, and remember we've got the new push rod seals turned a little. Don't force anything. Once you clear the frame, go ahead and turn the push rod tube seals until the line on it points down. Can't even goddamn see. Hello. Right. So those are going to point straight down. And this guy. Oh. Come on, bugger. Seep in. Yeah. Oh, for God's sake. Can't get a grip. That'd be that much harder without the alcohol already on there. Okay, where are we? Oh, we're so close. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Alright. Okay. Now we can get that on. And you're not going to be able to push it all the way in. There's going to be a gap there, but that's going to get cinched in when you're torquing everything down. Jesus. Okay. New head gasket. And you know what? Just one more time, verify you got the arrow facing exhaust. Alright, this sucker's all cleaned up. Looking good. Alright. At this point in the show, we're going to make balloon animals. Alright, so now we're going to put the push rods back in, and remember we marked them, laid them out, didn't touch them, nobody near them, so we can put them in the same way. And the rockers in the same position. Get this sucker on there. Alright. Get that? Oh, I don't even need that. When we put this back together, this nut has a kind of a raised area that goes into the rocker. And first, just really slowly, we're just going to bring this in. All right, get these started, eyes. Here. Just really walking this in, seeing the gap close up. Sullivan, cool it! Where was I? Ah. We're going to start torquing this. We're doing everything in a star pattern. We're going to start at 15 Newton meters. Now we're going to go to 25. 35. I'm on to the other side and run into a goofy situation here. Got the cover off, rockers are off, push rods are out, everything's labeled. This should slide right off, but something on this stud is hung up. I've run compressed air through it, front and back, seeing if there's something in there. I have no idea. I've talked to people, no idea. So, going to pull this, unscrew the cylinder stud, and hopefully it'll be able to pull out from the other side, and I'll be able to reuse that and get this thing apart. Let's see. I think we'll try a little heat on there first. See if we can get this sucker dislodged. I'm going to put 2 nuts on here and then see if we can back it out using that. Alright, that is unwinding. Good. Nice and slow. And whatever it is, it's hung up in there. Because this isn't coming out either. Fuck. Won't go that way. Won't go that way. Well, we will deal with that. Something is hung up in there. So, we'll get this one cleaned up. Get all that carbon off there. Come on. This guy doesn't want to move. Remember, we got to turn these. We're replacing them, so we'll just use some pliers. Doesn't matter. Now we got to clear the frame. And our cardboard is on our side. Alright, got the cylinder supported, or the piston. Now that's off. Gonna get washed.